My name is Ray Cool. I want to welcome each of you to today's webinar. We're going to discuss Windows 10, cloud file sharing, and a few other minor, but I shouldn't say minor, short but important topics surrounding other issues with Windows technology. So great content today. I'm going to move really quickly. Our short agenda: should we upgrade to Windows 10? There's some new information that folks should know. Windows 10 setup tips. We've found that the setup of Windows, absent some excellent or well thought through, hard to call your own work excellent, so some well thought through recommendations that cover key areas, you can really save some time and avoid some hassle and some employee dissatisfaction with some of these setup ideas. We're going to talk about cloud sharing. So we've done a lot of cloud sharing with clients and internally at PBSI and have learned a lot. So we'll share some of that, and specifically some Microsoft Office content that has recently come to the market with Office 2016 and 365. There are some choices. We have some recommendations. So thanks for joining. We're going to move quickly. So some of you, and thank you very much, many of you have been PBSI clients and friends for many years. Some of you, this is your first exposure to PBSI. PBSI provides technology services in a number of areas in the healthcare and in business community and nonprofit community in an area around Greater Cincinnati, about 3 hours. So hundreds and hundreds of clients, and thank you very much. We've gained experience over a long number of years in helping clients with technology issues. So the goal today is to inform, not to sell services, free information which we provide because we want to help clients, and I know that our use of technology is different in each organization. So first topic today, should we upgrade to Windows 10? So I'm not going to answer this clearly, but give enough information for each of you to make your own decision. A key piece of information: Microsoft has offered free Windows 10 upgrade through July 29th, and at the end, everything they indicate is that that will stop. So what should we do? First, Windows 10 is solid. It's ready. If you're ready to move on this, and I'll give you some information about why you might or might not, it's perfectly recommended. I use Windows 10, have for many months. Most of our staff at PBSI does so as well, and it's a fine product. It tends to be like Windows 7 or Windows XP in the past, a really reliable operating system that works well. So why might you not? We'll talk about that, but one thing to absolutely consider is you want to plan. If you're going to upgrade between now and July 29th, you want to start early. So first of all, consider possible compatibility issues. We find that most all, 90-something% of software that runs under Windows 7 or before, it runs fine under Windows 10. So some specific issues with Dragon Medical prior to the current release of Practice Edition 2. Label view software, Procom, which many of you use, this actually works perfectly fine, but there's a 10-second fix required once you upgrade. So anyway, there may be other programs. If you use something that you would consider to be unusual, something that's old or proprietary, then you might consider whether that particular PC who uses that software is a candidate or not. Generally, the principle is software, which usually means that it's older software, if it stores files in the programs folder instead of a data folder, which is the more modern method of doing it for Windows software, then there could be a compatibility issue. But fortunately, we've learned how to help through this. So when it comes down to it, very few pieces of software are not compatible. So recommendation that you would plan on an hour per PC for download and setup, that you'd also plan on 15 minutes per employee for one-on-one instruction. So PBSI is happy to do this on your behalf in any of your cases. Simply contact us and give us some heads up. So the reason for making this comment about plan in advance, you do not want to be on July 27th or July 26th doing this, because who knows what the rest of the world is doing and what kind of issues may rise if you do it late. So plan in advance. So your choice is to upgrade, plan for it, do it. Your choice is to don't upgrade. Windows 7 is solid, works fine. There are few compelling reasons to go to Windows 10. There are some, but few are compelling. So end of life is planned for 2020, and this seems like a lifetime away, but it's really only 4 years. So the time to replace will come, but It certainly isn't now. So a choice that's available now that was not until fairly recently is you can upgrade, then downgrade. So what this means, you can install Windows 10 and then make a selection to downgrade to Windows 7. Having done that, you have received your free license that's good forevermore for Windows 10, but you need to do the upgrade and then downgrade in order to do it, which takes about an hour. So a key thing here, many of you have seen this yourselves. Microsoft inexplicably has really begun stepping up their process of not just warning us if you have a Windows 7 PC, do you want to upgrade, do you want to upgrade, but we find many, many cases where it's done automatically. You come into the office in the morning or you come to your home PC in the morning and you have received the upgrade and you think, well, how did that happen? Honestly, our tech staff has no explanation, nor can we find one. Two PCs purchased at the same time on two desks next to each other, one gets upgraded, one doesn't. If you're a victim, quote, it's really not a problem. Don't panic, you can call PBSI. It's really quite simple. Once you have Windows 10, settings, updates, recovery, go back to Windows. It's straightforward, so no panic. And this information, by the way, is included with an attachment that each of you will get in follow-up to the webinar. So if you're, unless you're planning on replacing your hardware soon, I would recommend that you either choose upgrade, perfectly fine, or upgrade then downgrade. Okay, so how do we evaluate which option is best for us? So we've put together a document of setup principles. Some of these are really good recommendations that we think you should pay attention to. Some of these are preference items, and just understanding the difference will try and make clear as we go through a short overview. But our principles are, we want it to be simple. When if some of you experienced Windows 8 before it went to Windows 8.1, it was designed with all icons. It was like, what happened to Windows? This is really terrible. You can run Windows 10 in that mode. You just need to know how to run it in a mode that's not complex. So there are things that can be done. We'll show you those. Organizing file access, there are some really simple things that are really helpful. The Settings app is new with Windows 10, 8 and 10, and there are hundreds of choices. We're going to boil down the ones that are really important, and you'll get a document that says, here's the content. You don't have to remember anything you're going to hear today. So securing your PC, also very important, and there are some considerations with Windows 10. Generally, one of the most important benefits of Windows 10 is it is a significant notch upwards in security compared to Windows 7 or prior. So if there's one compelling under the surface reason, it would be the security built into Windows 10. However, that doesn't really show up as an end user benefit. So another thing that we're going to recommend is that you look carefully at your browser settings. One of the most frustrating things about Windows 10 is it comes with Microsoft Edge, which is fine in some settings, but in some settings it doesn't work. And it's hard to figure out, unless you know how, which we're going to clarify, how you set it so that it's functional and easy. So the one comment here is, be prepared. Don't think, okay, Ray said this was fine, this is going to be good, this is going to be simple, don't worry about it. I wouldn't make that comment. Be prepared that you'll have some folks say, well, wait a minute, but a little bit of training, it is fine. Just have an expectation of not perfection. Okay, so I'm going to link to a document, and this document actually, each of you will receive a copy of this that goes through some of the setup principles. So we want to choose secure, we want to choose clean, we want to choose fast over fun. Of course, people can make their own choices. You may not set your home PC in the same way. And we want, within an organization, consistency and supportability, which is one reason why, if you're in an administrative role in your organization, you might want to consider ensuring when this implementation of Windows 10 is done that you have some of these choices made consistently across the organization. So I'm going to demonstrate off and on some of these. I won't demonstrate all of these. And I'm going to apologize in advance. My screen is going to be flipping as I go between choices, but I'm going to start with the menu. So the menu is in your lower left-hand corner, and what you're accustomed to with Windows 7 looks quite different, but one of the things you want to do with your menu is set it so that it doesn't take your whole screen. I'll show you how to do that. So one thing you notice about the menu, on my menu you see my weather here. Now I do not have this set this way. Normally this is set for demonstration purposes, but when you install Windows 10, there's a feature called Live Tile that is turned on, and you'll see your menu choices all flipping around and making activity. So what's happening here is that this weather app is updating behind the surface. So the first thing I would do on my start menu is I would choose turn live tile off. For every one of these, it simply avoids wasting. Now here's one where it's on. I wouldn't turn it on. So you really can't discern unless you see something moving whether it's on or off. So I would just recommend right-clicking on each option on your menu and turning live tile off. Okay, so you've avoided wasting some processor cycles. So the start menu, setting this up for consistency is really useful. So you see mine tends to be fairly large number of items on my start menu. You might have 2, 3, 4 items, you might have 10, but the point is you can choose. This is how you create quick access to any program on your computer. So I've organized mine by business apps on the left and technical apps on the right. So you can organize these in any way you choose, but you can remove things like if I don't want the keyboard, or I don't want the people app, which by the way is what used to be called contacts. If I don't want those, then you'll see how this works. So you can also resize these, and one of the things that's a bit disconcerting when you first install is that if you resize and you choose between options, you'll see they aren't consistent. So as a simplicity preference, I tend to make mine all the same size. Okay, so choosing your start menu and what appears on it is simply a way to have quick access to the things you really care about. So get rid of the stuff you don't care about and add the things you do. So then one choice in the settings app, we're going to spend some time in the settings app because here's how you really customize Windows. First thing I would do there is I would choose, make a choice with the start menu. So I'm going to use the settings app now on my PC. And there are a number of ways to access this, but this is the new settings app. It replaces many of the functions, not all yet, many of the functions that used to be in Control Panel. So with the start, and we're going to be using this settings app, and I just want to refer back to the document. So the settings app is under accounts and personalization. So we're not going to go through the settings app in exactly the logical geographic sequence. I'm going to go through this in the sequence of what I would really do first. So under accounts and start menu, I would set this so that start uses full screen. So accounts, pardon me, personalization, start menu, and do you want to show more tiles on or off? Showing more tiles is fine. That's what makes my start menu appear to take this much of the screen real estate. If you say, no, you don't want it to take as much, it will be smaller. But what you don't want to do is you don't want it to use full screen. That turns it into Windows 8 and it takes your whole screen and you start thinking, wait a minute, what happened to my Windows? So this is a very important setting, which is why I'm mentioning it. Okay, so pinning things to the start menu, any application you select, you can pin it to start or you can pin it to taskbar. So taskbar is the bar across the bottom of your screen. So those are the two, and for many of you that's really old news and you understand that completely. But we want to choose which apps show up on our start menu and which appear on our taskbar. So I'm going to talk about taskbar next because to me it's a productivity thing. So on your taskbar, you can customize what shows up here by right-clicking, and there are some settings that we recommend in order to maximize this. So toolbars, some of these may be clicked. There are none of these toolbars that you really need. One thing, though, that we do recommend is showing the task view button, and the task view button is this, which allows you to see all the apps that are running so you can pick one. So that's the task view button, and I find it to be helpful. So then on the task view buttons, which of these should be selected? So do we want lock the taskbar? Generally not. Under properties, don't want to lock the taskbar, don't want to auto hide it, and I prefer small icons. Small icons are here. If we said don't use small icons, then the result is I would have less space on my taskbar. So it's really a visual thing and a preference thing, but for productivity, you can fit more things if you use small icons. So that's an element of taskbar settings. So I'm going to go back to properties, and I'm going to use small icons. Okay, so some of these things are minor in the grand scheme of things, but they're helpful. So what else do we want on our taskbar? Generally, the things you use really frequently. So I use GoToMeeting, that's a GoToMeeting. I use Chrome for my browser. I use File Explorer. I use Microsoft Outlook and OneNote. So I put these things in my taskbar so that I can simply click that application and it opens that application without going to a menu. And that's actually my to-do list that I use in OneNote, which is a great application, by the way. We won't really talk about that today, but if you are interested in OneNote, it synchronizes across all your devices, your PCs, your tablets, your iPhones and Androids and whatnot. So setting up the taskbar, one of the things that I'm going to move on to is on the taskbar, I use File Explorer for searching. This is something that is beyond Windows 10 specifically, but it's really important for the use of Windows. So the File Explorer, which used to be called Windows Explorer, is an application that you can set to find things. And so on your PC, you have a C drive, and on your C drive, you have a documents directory and so forth. So those are universal. The way I like mine set is that I want to set individual links to certain folders. So in Windows 10, these are called no longer called favorites. Now they're called quick access. So you can add things to your quick access by going to whatever folder you want to, right-clicking on it and saying add to quick access. And then you start accumulating things up here. Why do I mention this? Favorites was one of the things I used to do the same thing in Windows 7, but it's gone. There are no favorites anymore, and my first reaction to Windows 10 was, I don't want this. Favorites are gone. Get rid of this thing. So just know that quick access is the replacement. So if you put things on your search menu so you can find them quickly, then I can have one click to go directly into an area where it used to take me 3-4 clicks. So one of the things in the setup document includes how to set File Explorer to have your favorites, so one click you can get to what you need. Okay, so quick access, this is all related. I'm not going to go further into this, but there are some variations that will apply to different organizations. It's something that I would do on every PC in my organization to make sure that every staff member has a very quick way to go and find the things that they want to find. Here are the crystal reports that PBSI uses, so forth, one click away. Okay, so we've talked about the menu setup, the taskbar setup, and File Explorer setup. Moving on, what are some other things that are really useful? So after I've gotten those basics, the menu, taskbar, File Explorer, I'm going to go to Accounts, Personalization, System, Devices, Network, and Internet. These are the keys to some important items. I won't spend a lot of time here, but first of all, Accounts. So we're going to go to our Settings app and choose Accounts. And here we can choose sign-in options. You can put your picture on an account. If you have a Microsoft Surface or other units, you can set Windows Hello to allow you to log in with your picture, or a 4-digit security pin, or a finger scanner, depending on what hardware you have. And it's really useful. You can shortcut the sign in to Windows 10 by setting up the accounts and sign-in options. So one other thing we'd recommend, that your PC will now really effectively remember your Microsoft account. So if you use Office 365 or you have different email addresses, you can load your Gmail account, your @myorganization.account. You can put your accounts here and Windows will remember them, which is really helpful when you go into browser settings. There are areas where this has become much more consistently applied under Windows 10 than previously. So a little bit of setup work there. Okay, personalization. You can choose your background, your colors. You can choose themes or not. So on my PC, I have a theme. I go between different themes. You can have different desktop backgrounds. These are just silly examples of a particular theme, but I have a security recommendation. If you used to use a screensaver or you think about using a screensaver that is from a different source, I would not do that. Microsoft has a fantastic group of very widely varied screensavers that you can download as themes, and they're safe and they're secure. Screensavers tend to be the most oft used tool by hackers. You download a beautiful screensaver that plays beautiful music from a Christian website, and all of a sudden you have acquired something bad because somebody decided that hiding their malware inside of a really beautiful picture with beautiful music might be a really good way to fool people into their fold. So Microsoft has excellent themes that you can choose from. That'd be the recommendation. So customize your accounts. Okay, moving from there, system, you can see which notifications, which applications display notifications. You can really waste cycles, and you can also cause your PC processor cycles. You can cause your PC to be unsecure by the settings that you make here. So under System, on my Settings app, I choose Notifications, and which icons appear on my taskbar can be set and changed there. Do I want to have notifications for various apps, and which apps are going to provide notifications to me? I get to choose this. So choosing your settings here is useful, and I'd recommend you turn notifications off for most things. Privacy, one comment here, Microsoft, like Google, seems like everyone these days, they want to automatically set your privacy settings so that all your information is communicated to them. You can choose to do that if you wish to, but recommendation here is choose privacy so that Microsoft does not get your information. So if I'm looking at, pardon me, my accounts and settings here, I can choose, does Microsoft get to see my advertising, my browsing? Do they get to use my history for their purposes? And I want to say no. And we have seen examples, I've seen this personally, where you get an update from Microsoft and all of a sudden they've reset that back to the way their default was. So just be aware this might not stay forever. Windows Update, as every application on Windows, you want to set those to automatically update. So basically on this screen, you're seeing the sections of the Settings app where we'd recommend you go take a look at those choices. And one of them, which I won't go into, but you want to make sure there's an antivirus. Microsoft provides a purported antivirus with your PC, but it really is not complete. It isn't compared on any of the application websites that compare antivirus apps. You want to make sure you have an antivirus app. If you're a PBSI client, chances are we've supplied your antivirus and you have either Bitdefender or Viper, perfectly fine antivirus. They work fine under Windows 10. But if you haven't otherwise done so, you need to make sure the first thing you do is install antivirus on your PC, or you'll find yourself in trouble quickly. Okay, move on to browser, and then we're almost done with Windows 10. So the browser, one of the things that's frustrating with Windows 10 is that it comes with a new browser, which is fine in most applications, Edge. So you'll find Microsoft Edge, a big E, to show up in your taskbar. And when you access the internet, Microsoft Edge is your default browser. However, Edge doesn't work in all applications. It's fairly immature, so I'm not saying don't use Edge, but I wouldn't use it as your default browser. I choose Chrome. Many people choose Internet Explorer. One of the things that Microsoft has done is they've hidden Internet Explorer. So if you went to try and find it and look at all the applications on your PC, you can't find Internet Explorer listed in alphabetic order. Where you will find it is down under W, under Windows Accessories. There's Internet Explorer, and you can right-click and say Add to my Start menu, which I have done, so my Internet Explorer shows here only because I intentionally asked it to do that. So in my case, I'm going to use Chrome, but whether I use Internet Explorer or Chrome, once you open up that application, you can see that the default browser is Bing. So I'm not going to go through this, but the instructions are in the document. How you change this default browser to google.com is the one that we would I typically recommend. It's faster. It's the results come back more effectively. So the settings icon here in Windows Explorer is what allows you to change these things. So Internet options and make your changes there. So this is documented in the handout you'll receive. So you can easily fix the things that come out of the box, and it doesn't take much time. You just need to be intentional. So going down the list, we choose our browser, we put it in our taskbar, we decide what our HTML editor, these are all choices that are made underneath Internet Explorer, and changing so that it even finds Google. There are some choices here that aren't really intuitive, but the instructions are clear. Okay, so then the final thing here, Windows 10, if you have the unfortunate experience that you had Windows 7, Microsoft automatically upgraded it, or you've upgraded to Windows 7 and within the next 30 days you decide you want to downgrade, there's an easy way to do it. So under Windows 10, you go to the Settings app, choose Update and Security, Recovery, go back to Windows 7 or Windows 8, whichever you had prior, and that's done quite effectively. We've seen that work not universally cleanly, but generally very cleanly. So doing this, upgrading to Windows 10, and then using these settings to downgrade back to Windows 7 will take some time, but you secure your license so that you don't have to purchase Windows 10 down the road. Okay, so hopefully these are helpful about customizing your experience and avoiding some frustrations that otherwise come about with Windows 10. So moving on, we're going to talk about cloud sharing. So this is another completely separate topic, but we've done a lot of work with different cloud sharing applications. So who might use cloud sharing? At one time, there was significant concern. I had concern. We had concern about security, about consistency, about reliability. So really the only significant thing that you need in order to make sure that you're going to use this successfully is you need to have a fairly robust bandwidth so that files transferred up and back from and to the cloud are done so with good speed. So the applications where most people would really find usefulness, multi-location access, including home access. So you have people who work at home, the hassles of logging into your network before having access to your files can be easily solved. Multiple device access. I have a Microsoft Surface, I have a PC, I have a home PC, I have an iPad, I have an iPhone. Some people have Androids. So files can be shared across those devices quite easily, and it works very well. So another issue, critical need for availability. So if our server houses our files and when it's down, we can't work on the weekend because we don't have access. The cloud is not going to be down in the same way. Your internet might go out for a time, which is a concern, but on the good side, the backup is redundant and across the country, and you won't have issues with availability, generally speaking. Another reason you might be concerned about backup is our backup working consistently? Is it being backed up every day? Is it reliable? For those of you who don't use PBSI online backup or backup monitoring, or if you do utilize those features, then you really don't have a concern because PBSI is paying attention to your backup on your behalf. But many of you back up on your own server. No one, not at PBSI, not in your office, knows about that backup and how well it works. So you might be one who says, you know what, I want to make sure that there is secure and monitored backup going on. So it's one reason to have files go to the cloud. Reliability, if we have in-house storage that we're not sure if it's a 10-year-old server, we're not sure when it might fail, we're concerned about reliability. We don't want to replace our 10-year-old server, so we'd like to move files now so that when that server is out of useful life, that we don't have to replace it. We can simply use the cloud as our server. So these are some reasons why we might want to do this. So the questions are, should we do it? Which vendor? How do we go about setting it up? And so we've done some learning here. And I won't spend a long time with this topic, but there are dozens, probably more than dozens of available vendors who provide free or nearly free cloud storage. And most all of these are perfectly fine. If you use Amazon for your free storage or Adobe, Dropbox, Apple's iCloud, they're fine. I wouldn't suggest you change from something that's working well now if it's a complete solution. The two biggest vendors in the market are Microsoft and Google. Generally speaking, if somebody is going to begin into this process, I'm going to recommend using one of them. So the three basic choices here: Microsoft OneDrive is free to anybody storing up to 5 gigabytes per user, and then it's a $2 a month per user after that. So it's fairly inexpensive. The issue is it's not as secure. So probably I wouldn't use OneDrive as your business storage method. Either Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive for Business are perfectly fine choices. So Google Drive, up to free 15 gigabytes free storage per user, so 5 users, you have quite a lot of storage that's available. If you use Office 365, then OneDrive is also free, it's included. So if you don't have OneDrive for Business, then you pay $5 a user per month for a terabyte of storage. So all things being equal, if you don't use Office 365, Google Drive is probably your choice because it's secure, it's free, it's simple. So there are some differences in terms of customizability, and I'll talk about those just a bit. The main things we want to think about with cloud hosting is it secure? So data is in two places. It's at rest when a file is stored, or it's in transit when it's being moved from or to its location, either in the cloud or on a server. So all major cloud services encrypt data in transit. So it used to be the case, but regardless of which of these above suppliers you use, they provide what ends up being a VPN between you and the cloud wherever you are. So no concern about files being transferred, being intercepted and decrypted in transit. So the question of encryption at rest, Google Drive and OneDrive for Business automatically encrypt data at rest. Didn't used to be the case, but it is true now. OneDrive does not encrypt data at rest. So particularly if you have PHI or Social Security number, something that's critical, I would not recommend using OneDrive. But Google, OneDrive for Business, both fine. So you have the ability to password protect, which encrypts any file, but to not need to do that, these two solutions are good choices. So generally the way this works, you can share folders with anyone and you can change permissions. So a really short example. So I use Google Drive. I'm participating with some clients in their data structures. We have a data structure that we set at PBSI. So I'm going to my Google Drive, and this is a set of documents that is shared among PBSI staff, and we all see and access these files in the same way. Still within my Google Drive, I can go to another client and look at the file structure. I'm not going to do anything here that compromises anybody's confidentiality, but reports or crystal report templates, these things which we used to think about storing on a shared drive in our office, now can be stored on the cloud, and they're available to anyone. So how do you customize security? Actually, when you install both Google Drive and OneDrive, they show up in your file explorer just like this. So I have a folder called Desktop OneDrive Files and Surface OneDrive Files. I do this for demonstration purposes. And so it doesn't matter whether I'm using OneDrive or Google Drive, these documents show up. If I'm the owner, in other words, I wasn't invited to participate, if I am initiating the participation in sharing these documents, then I can go to any of these, right-click, say I want to share a OneDrive link or share a Google Drive link, and when I do that, it allows me to choose who I'm sharing with and what kind of permissions they have. So basically, the security differential here between Google and OneDrive for Business is that the differential with Google Drive is simply you have access to view or you have access to edit, and those are the choices. So OneDrive for Business gives you significantly more flexibility in configuring choices about access. So if view only or edit access are acceptable, Google Drive is a great choice. Works very well. Couple of recommendations, though, about this. So it's easy to share, and the author, there's one organizer, administrator, which can be PBSI on your behalf, or we can set it up such that it's a person in your organization. That administrator who creates these shares has the rights to change them. And so you need to be carefully select who is organizing and creating the shares. So a couple of cautions about this video. These cloud sharing arrangements, all of them so far as we've discerned, are very good for documents, but they aren't really designed for video. There are free services like Vimeo that are designed. So when we share video documents, we actually put them on Vimeo. We don't put them on OneDrive or Google. So if you get a link to the content of this webinar, you'll be accessing that video file on Vimeo. So consider what kind of files you might put on the cloud, and if it's they're very large, dense files like video or audio files, then I would stay away from the cloud, but otherwise documents are fine. So my final recommendation here, we've seen this become a problem for organizations who started into this file sharing without consideration. So let's say you have Google Drive and you have somebody who has a Gmail account and they start your Google Drive and they create permissions and all is good, and then that person leaves the organization. Who has the permissions to change that master account? Well, it's linked to that person's personal Gmail account. So the first thing is, both for the administrator and each person who accesses, you may already have another Gmail account, but I'd recommend not using your personal Gmail accounts. In the organization, we can set up ray.cool@pbsinet at gmail or .pbsi@gmail.com and so forth. So the benefit here is when you take permissions away, you're not influencing their personal Gmail accounts, and you can set up, we can on your behalf, or you can set up aliases such that you don't have to manage several accounts. You can have them all go into one, but they in fact are distinct. So just a recommendation here, using your business email or your practice email, perfectly fine, no problem, but I would stay away from other personal emails. I would set them up, they're free to do, for each person who's going to share in your network. So save you a piece of headache with that. All right, so should you share files on the cloud? We find some great applications. We will be making more use of this among clients. We'll be putting manuals and tip sheets and these PBSI solutions available as free linked documents to clients, and you'll find those accessed on the web instead of through your PBSI portal. So there are applications where you in the same way for your clients may want to publish things that are accessible from folks outside your organization. Final comment about this, when you set up file sharing, I would recommend that you lock down the procedures such that there's no confusion about which files are shared. So we had an organization recently who went through this process, and their start-off process was going to be to copy all of these files from their shared folder up into the cloud. Why are you going to copy them? So that we have a backup. Well, what is the end result of that is that somebody goes to modify that document on the internal network, somebody else goes to the cloud. Pretty soon you have a significant mess because this group of employees have been using internal documents, the other group's been using external. So the upshot of that, you don't have to share all your files, move all your files, but make a very specific decision about which files are going to be moved, and do not copy them, move them. So for this group of files, they're in the cloud. For this other group of files, they're on our internal server, but do not mix them up and make copies or you'll have a mess. Okay, that's a piece of experience that hopefully will help you avoid some problems in the future. Okay, last very quick topic, We're almost done. I don't know how many of you use some more of the advanced features of Microsoft Office, but some particular peeves of mine, when I've upgraded from one copy of Microsoft to another, my custom dictionary has gone away. So that would be where client names, for those of you in the healthcare field, EHR, you may know, turns automatically into HER by Microsoft's standard dictionary still to this day. So having to redo your custom dictionary where you tell it that EHR is a valid spelling, and on ad infinitum, I probably have hundreds of entries in my custom dictionary over the years where client names and a bunch of other things, it knows the spelling. So you upgrade Office, there's no provision to save that. It automatically just replaces whatever you had there with the new custom dictionary, excuse me, the new standard dictionary. So to prevent that, this is really simple. Prior to upgrade, copy your custom dictionary. Here's its location. Here are the instructions how to copy it. And then you place it back into the same location, which is unchanged regardless of what version of Office you have. So this one little thing of making that copy in advance might save some of you lots of time and frustration. Okay, same thing with the ribbon line. So if you're not familiar with how this works, the ribbon line in any Microsoft application is something you can have above or below the normal set of menu options. And I use my ribbon line quite extensively in Excel and in PowerPoint and Word, also in Outlook and Calendar. So what am I putting here? I'm putting formatting commands generally. If I'm on the home menu, formatting commands in Microsoft Office are readily available. But if I'm in a different menu, my formatting commands aren't there. I put them in my ribbon line. So the very simple thing here, you can export ribbon line information and import it from any version of Office into any version of Office. So what we have done at PBSI is to have a folder where we have exported each of these, both custom dictionary and each of these various ribbon line customizations for different Office applications. If you ask, we're happy to supply these to you so that you then can go to whichever person wants to take advantage of this, and you can customize and import and tell it where it's coming from, and just like that, you have replaced your ribbon line with the things that you painstakingly set up in the previous year. So two things that for some of you might not be really important, but for others of you might be very important. They're certainly time-saving. Then one other thing, putting your file path and name into your document is something that it's a really hidden feature in Word. So here are the instructions to do that so that your file and path name are automatically stored with your document. And now in Office, when you save your document, it's not true before 2016, but now the path name does change when you save it to a new location. So, simple things, but avoid some frustration. Okay, so we've talked about Windows, cloud sharing, and Office. Is it time to upgrade? Sure. If you don't have objections to trying something new, Windows 10 is a perfectly fine operating system, works very well. Just simply prepare for it and plan for it and know that it's going to take some time. Cloud sharing, it depends on your application, but I can tell you that it works well, it works consistently, and setup is key. It can be an extreme frustration or it can be a thing of beauty. And we find that the difference between those two is how it was planned, how it was implemented, how it was documented, how communication takes place with staff. So those are the keys, not really which tool you use. And finally, just talking about Microsoft Office, you can choose Office 2016, you can choose Office 365. There are not differences in the quality of the apps. In fact, you use the same app. The difference between Microsoft Office in its purchased version and 365 in its rented version is simply an economic decision. Generally speaking, if you're going to keep your version of Office for more than 3 years, then you're better off financially to purchase Office and not do 365. If I had 10 copies of Office on 10 PCs and I'm buying another PC, I would buy the purchased version because it makes sense. If I were implementing a new Office and upgrading and replacing all of our PCs, I'd take a look at Office 365 because you get automatic upgrades when the next apps come out, and though you will spend somewhat more money, it does come with OneDrive for Business built in, and so it is a decision that's really financial, and so hopefully that is useful to understand. Should we upgrade our Office? Only if you're doing a large number of upgrades would be my recommendation. So thank you for your attendance. Each of you will receive an attachment with the documents that we've looked at today. You're welcome to call and ask questions. Hope this is helpful to you. I know we spent a lot of learning creating the content that didn't want to have others have to redo. So call and email with questions anytime. Otherwise, we are finished and you may log off. And I want to thank you for your attendance.